Hello, and welcome once again to the Dental Marketing Mastery Series. This podcast is brought to you by dentalwebcontent.com and New Patients Incorporated. I'm Howie Horrocks, the founder of New Patients Incorporated. Along with me once again is my friend and partner and the president of New Patients Incorporated, Mark Dilatush.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome once again to our weekly podcast. And I'm here, Howie Horrocks here in Las Vegas, where it's really nice and hot. And then Mark's out there in New Jersey. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fine, sir. It's actually very nice here, but our cars are all yellowish green from the things that we have here that you guys don't have there. They're called trees.
Oh, come on. Right. We know what pollen is.
Okay, all right. So if I sound under the weather, I'm not really sick. I just have the worst case of pollen allergy, I guess,
Yeah.
And just whatever. Just going to the car wash a lot and taking lots of meds.
Good. All right. Well, today, we are happy to announce this is our 100th podcast.
100.
Can you believe it?
I would like everyone who has listened to all 100 of these to send Josh at newpatientsinc.com. I want you to send him an email.
Yeah.
Okay. Howie and I have a special gift for you.
Yes.
Really, seriously, because you have no life and you need one. No, I'm only kidding. Thank you very much for listening over the. Wow, we're 2 years into this.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
because it's one a week, right? 50 weeks.
Maybe it's we who don't have a life.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, who are we to speak, right? All right. So anyway, so if you've listened to these, a couple of things to our listeners. One, there's follow-up conversations at Dental Marketing Mastery Facebook group. So if you're listening to these and you're not part of that group, just ask to be part of it and we'll get you on board. If you are a longtime listener, send an email out to Josh, Josh, at newpatientsinc.com. Tell him you listen to the podcast. We do have a prize for you. This is commemorating our 100th podcast. So what are we doing today?
Well, I think we let's take a look at how dentistry is doing so far as compared to a year ago.
Right. Yeah, the first 4 full months of 2018, and again, we don't know every dental office, but we do have, a few hundred that we see, monitor, talk to, what have you, and do work for. And last year was a rebound year. This year actually is up from last year. So it's either the statistical momentum carrying through the calendar year, or this is a continuing trend. We're pretty much looking at about 18, 19 months now. So this is wonderful. All of you deserve it. You lived through 2008 through 2016 together. And that was a really tough time, right? So now, if people don't go to the dentist for 5 or 6 or 7 years, then when they come around to going to the dentist, you end up with a rebound. And for all the dentists listening to this, you pretty much guess what happens to teeth if those teeth don't go to a dentist for 5 or 6 or 8 years. So you might be dealing with a lot of emergencies, and you might be dealing with a lot of endo, and you might be dealing with a lot of single tooth or quad dentistry right now, which is starting to look really nice in your schedule book. So, and this isn't the first time we've seen this. This is actually the third time since I've been here. Howie, you've probably seen it 5 times, right? So,
yeah.
So we always get the question, when there's a recession, like, what do I do? What do I do during a recession? And our answer is really always the same from a budgeting standpoint as it is when there's an upswing like there is right now. You stay consistent. You don't do wild swings with your marketing budget. You just maintain consistency. Now, during downswings, you focus your budget on the core staples of dentistry, family dentistry, all the services, amenities, technologies, public relations assets that resonate with the majority of the top half of the market. You just keep doing that during a downswing because that's the batch of minnows that are going to be caught in your net the most, right? That core family market. So what do you do when things pick up? And if you're listening to this podcast and you've been a dentist for, let's say, 15, 18 years, then you remember that wonderful ride that we took between 2001 and 2008, which was the 8 years in dentistry when every dentist in the entire world became a cosmetic dentist, right?
Yeah.
And that happened, honestly, it happened because of the availability of credit. Okay. We all lived through our housing, our home values doubling or tripling, right, in those 7 years. And we all wondered what was going on. But we didn't say anything because it was good, right? So meanwhile, we just racked up credit card bills, paid it off with home equity that honestly didn't exist. And we just kept going on our merry way. Well, during that time, dentistry, a lot of the production that happened in a lot of these offices, in a lot of offices that are listening to this podcast right here, a lot of that income was elective dentistry. It was just endless piles of money to be spent on elective dental work. So when that ended, what was our counsel to our clients? Our counsel to our clients was, okay, pull everything back. You're no longer a cosmetic dentist.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
back
can talk about it a little bit. But
yeah, right. Right. We talk about it a little bit, but you just became a family dentist again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they kicked and screamed and, cried and whatever. But after a while, they're like, oh, okay, now I see what you're talking about. So now, though, we're rebounding, right? So you say to yourself, well, if you pull back to the core family services, amenities, technologies, public relations assets during a downturn, what do you do during an upturn? And the answer is you start to expand into a niche. Now, choosing the niche isn't always easy. It could be implants. It could be short-term ortho. It could be Invisalign. It could be sleep apnea treatment. It could be sedation. It could be whatever you're most interested in, really, as a practitioner. We have a doctor who's been doing tongue-tie treatments with infants. It could be a Botox. It could be anything that you're legally allowed to do. We don't want you to do anything illegal, of course, but when you have an upswing and the capacity of your practice is filled now with the bread and butter, it's kind of a widely used term in dentistry, the bread and butter type patients, and you have a little more room and you want to do more of the fun dentistry, things that you like, then now it's time to niche, because your risk is never going to be lower to niche, market a niche, than it is during an upswing. During this upswing, there's more credit available than there was in 2009. I don't think anybody can argue with that.
Right.
Right? Okay. Right. So if you're going to move into a niche, now would be the time. Now, you don't do it. Excuse me, there's the pollen again. You don't do it all at once. You do it a percentage of your budget at a time. So let's say, this is just a random example, but let's say a doctor's 2008 to 2016 has been pretty much allocating the entire budget into the core family staple values, promoting dentistry families. And now the doctor wants to do, sleep apnea. Okay. You don't go take an 80% of your budget and apply it to sleep apnea. You might take 30% of your budget, assuming 70% of your budget can keep the bread and butter side of your practice full, then there's almost no downside risk to taking 30% and allocating it to building your sleep apnea brand within your community, right?
Right. And then that might also be a perfect time if you've got an associate to unload the stuff that you don't want on his or her plate.
Yep.
And you go off and promote the niche that you're happiest with.
Exactly. Now, bottom line, we'll take a break here in a second. The bottom line is your overall budget calculation always remains the same. Okay. You don't spend more when it gets slow. You don't spend less when it gets busy. You spend the same. Okay. That's number one. Number two, how you allocate what you're spending is really your decision now. Okay. Back in when it was retracting, no pun intended, I spent the same amount of money, but we were focused solely on, the core family dentistry. That was our message. It was just the basics, right? Now, though, your decision is, or your consideration and decision is, can I get a little fancy with my marketing budget? Do I want to emphasize more X, whatever X is? And the answer is, there's always an answer. There's always a way to do that for all of the niches. Okay, so we're not even at the point of what do you do with that budget allocation. We're just saying consider where you might want to go with it, and then we can follow up later and tell you how to do it.
Great. All right, we're going to take a short break. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Hello, everybody. This is Howie Horrocks, and along with me is Mark Dilatush, the president of New Patients Incorporated. How you doing, Mark?
Hey, Howie. How are you? This is the part of the podcast where we get to brag about our company.
Yay.
So sometimes it gets lost in all these podcasts what New Patients Incorporated actually does. We have, I don't know how many podcasts, 75, 80, one a week for well over a year. And all of you listen to these a half hour at a time, and you might lose sight of what we do. So here's the short answer. We do everything we're talking about in these podcasts on behalf of our clients. Okay. The podcasts are there for our clients, of course, just so they understand what the heck we're doing, but also for the doctors who are do-it-yourselfers. If you're not a do-it-yourselfer and you want someone to do this for you, newpatientsinc.com. There's an icon in the dead center at the top of our homepage where you can get a complimentary marketing plan. A series of questions will need to be completed. And once you complete that, we will analyze your market area, develop a marketing plan, and get on the phone with you, discuss all the sections of the marketing plan, just to make sure you understand a couple of things: what you're up against, what your expectations should be, and what Mark and Howie would do if we owned your dental practice.
All right, we are back. Welcome back. Podcast number 100, part 2. Here we go.
Da, 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 da.
Let's chat about something that's been kind of topical on some of the dental forums. This review gating.
Yes. Actually, let's do. You know what? Let's do. We have 3 things for today. Let's do the capacity side. And what to do with the capacity, because that kind of dovetails in with the budget on what to do and all that other stuff. All right, so
good idea.
Let me follow up with the offices all over the country are busier now than they've been for the last, I'd say, 18, 19 months. historically, well, not historically, for the last 7 or 8 years, we've allocated 99% of our budgets, our client budgets, into the core staples of family dentistry. It served our clients very well. As things improve, that's the opportunity to begin to niche. In other words, to begin to promote a certain service or maybe a group of services. It could be senior dentistry. You could do implants, implant-supported dentures, cosmetic dentures. You could do all kinds of things with senior dentistry. Anyway, but when things are in uptick, that's the perfect time to allocate a portion of your budget. Now, here's how you know it might be time, and that almost always points to capacity. And for most of you listening to this, unless you're just started listening to these, you know we're a huge advocate for online scheduling, Local Med Connect. And with that platform, we can actually see the appointments coming in, and we can check our clients' capacity. We can log on to their website, click on a provider, pretend we're an adult, and then pretend we want to make a new patient appointment and see how far out in advance the schedule goes to find the first and second, third opening. And I'm going to say easily 80% of our clients are over capacity. In other words, there's not enough openings.
Right.
So we email the client and we try to give them tips on how to open that up. Because if you don't open it up, what happens is you end up spending money, and actually, in some cases, you can anger the prospective new patient because you're not available to them. So you kind of wasted their time, right? And you spent money wasting their time, which really pisses them off. So it should piss you off too. So when you're doing this, when you're going through this, if you're at capacity and you have a budget and a good portion is already allocated to the family market that you've been in for the last 8 to 10 years, but you have a little leftover budget to begin to niche a service or a group of services for your practice, how do you get around the capacity issue? Because if you're going to start to niche, then you're going to want those consults available. You want an availability for those consults, or the money that you're going to spend to niche yourself isn't going to come, it's not going to be as well spent. Let's put it that way. So a patient who's responding to your niche advertising is going to want to have an opening, at least 2 or 3 options for an opening within the next 8 workdays. And if they don't, they'll probably move on. And if they move on, they'll probably not be feeling really good about their experience with your practice, even though you've never seen them, you've never diagnosed them, you never treated them, you never did anything. They were interested, they just couldn't find an appointment, and they moved on. So how do you measure your capacity and make sure there's room for these niche patients that you're going to spend a portion of your advertising dollars on? That's a really good question. So let me give you some answers. Most of these are going to revolve around online scheduling. They don't have to. I mean, you can do this manually with your appointment book. It is possible, and you kind of have to have the right team for this. Okay, so before I say this, that's the qualifier. You have to have the right team. If you're at or beyond capacity, and even regular new patients can't get in for the next week, let's say, that's too far booked out. You need availability like tomorrow. And if you can't obviously add an operatory or add dentists or add a hygienist, or if you can't do any of those things and you're really just right up against the capacity wall, so to speak, and you have the right team that's flexible and willing to work through some busy times, because it's going to get busier than it gets right now. Some of our offices are actually opening up another column in their schedule. Like, let's say you have 4 operatories, they open up operatory number 5. Operatory number 5 really doesn't represent a treatment room. It really just represents all the new patients that we are getting to respond to our marketing that didn't fit into our current schedule. Some of our offices are taking that book and they're blocking out the most inconvenient hours for appointments. In other words, let's say 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And they don't even offer those appointments online or over the telephone to the new patients who are coming in, not only for regular dentistry, but for these niche consults. And they'll block out, let's say, an hour and a half in the morning and an hour and a half in the afternoon. And they'll just keep those hour and a halves open for those appointments, and they'll block everything in between them. And they'll do that for at least one day a week. And then as they fill up, they'll go to their second day and then their third day and so on and so forth. And you might say to me, but Mark, that's like double or triple booking. And I'm going to say, yeah, you're right. That's why you have to have a flexible team. Okay. Now, if you're really that pressed up against the wall and there's just nothing anyone in your office can do, then you can't possibly expand in any direction, then obviously you have other decisions to make. Okay. Right. But in most offices, if we can sneak in, because you know what? When we talk to offices about, specifically about online scheduling, they say, well, when people call, we always get them in. I just have to talk to them first. Well, okay. The reality is that you're not talking to them, some of them. Because they're calling and they're just hanging up on your voicemail. That's what those hang-ups are. They're new patients. Okay. So no, you're not talking to them and they don't have any way to do it online. But if you set up that extra operatory, they would. So that helps. Doesn't solve your problem completely. And it's not for an office that doesn't have a flexible team. But if you have a flexible team and you can do that, do it. The last thing, Howie's topic, the Google review gating. Google announced the other day that they didn't want, the review software to purposely negate less than a 5-star review. What we have done with our NPI Crusader in response to that request from Google, is give the patient the option of sending their comments back to the office for follow-up or sending their comments to Google. That is not a gate, that's a choice. So it's the same automation, it's the same, the texts go out at an hour after they leave or at 7 p.m. Everything else basically works the same if they click the smiley face or the frowny face. If they click the frowny face, now they're given two options. Send your comments back to the practice or to the doctor and send your comments to Google. And that's the choice. That's the choice that Google wanted us to put in. So that's how we implemented it. Now Google is going to be, let me back up a couple steps. What Google doesn't want is they don't want manipulated reviews. So I've had dentists already call me and say, well, how are they going to know that NPI Crusader has a gate on it? And my answer to all those dentists is they won't. They can't. They can't know. And the reason they can't know is because NPI Crusader does not have their own review platform. So NPI Crusader is not going to be a target of Google, okay? But everyone that has their own review platform, like BillyBobsReviews.com and whatever other review, and everybody listening to this knows exactly what I'm talking about. So the other patient communicators out there in the market that have their own review platform, those are going to be the targets of the gating issue with Google. I can't imagine. I'm not going to say it'll never happen. I mean, we already took care of the issue, but it's the review gating thing was generated a few phone calls last week from some concerned dentists. Some of them were clients, some of them weren't. But as long as you are automated, as long as those texts requests for a review are continually going out without your staff having to do anything, as long as there's a happy and a frowny face. Obviously, if they click the happy face, that's fine. They're going to Google. We know how many people are clicking the happy versus the frowny face. So most of the people are clicking the happy faces anyway. So this really isn't a gigantic deal, and we've already taken care of our end. But it's my belief that those with review platforms outside of Google are the ones that are the targets. So that's it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well,
that's podcast 100.
100. And you know what? Coincidentally, today is my birthday. Not my 100th.
Is it really it's your 100th birthday? Wow.
No, it's my 24th birthday.
Howie, happy birthday, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
And thank you to our listening audience. We hope you will join us again next week. Bye now.
We hope you've enjoyed our podcast today. You can find more podcasts on our YouTube channel, on Stitcher, and iTunes. Also on our websites, dentalwebcontent.com and newpatientsinc.com.